G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. I don't know the episode, it's very early in the morning, but we are here to make the content. A lot to talk about today. Obviously a couple of news stories, a couple of re-signings over the week, but of course a big trade period coming up, so we'll be breaking that down as well. A bit of world sport we'll be talking about at the end of the episode. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. And then Reagan from the pocket, don't tell me, Isaac Reagan!
Yeah.
He's just got the license for a brothel.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be more than just AFL this next season.
It's at the handle at the back, Nick Dacos to get the pies home! He's done it! So my brother is here with me today. Of course, we had to do it very early, probably because of you, because you got work this morning. So we had to do it today, or else we wouldn't have got it done. Yeah, thank you for that. But anyway, so if a couple of words get slurred, that's just because I'm a bit tired. But we got it out because we know so many people love it. We get so many listens, obviously. Yeah, we're so popular. I think we're up there with one of the best AFL podcasts on the planet. Probably not, but anyway. A couple of news stories throughout the first couple of days. We're recording this Monday morning, so not too many things have happened. We've seen a couple of trades, which we'll talk about a little bit later, all free agency moves. First one is Max King. He has officially signed a monster deal with the Saints. I think he's the longest contract now, I'm pretty sure. It'd be up there with Nick Blakey.
And Aaron Norton.
Yeah, so he goes till 2032 now, so a 6-year deal, I believe. 7-year deal, sorry. Massive deal for him and the Saints. I'm not too surprised he stayed. I know some people would sit there and say that they shouldn't have kept him, or they should have used him to try and get rid of him. But at the end of the day, if he can stay fit and they can actually use a way to use him effectively up forward, I don't think you get rid of Max King. No, I think the potential's too much there.
Yeah, you'd be stupid if they got rid of him. They would have been the dumbest things they could have done in years if they did that.
Yeah, I think that yeah, I think it's good, but maybe the contract's a bit long though for a guy who's been injury prone.
But I think that's the norm now. I think that's especially for a big forward when there isn't a lot of them. I think you're gonna have to pay a little overs to keep him. And say Kilda, they haven't had the tendency to keep a lot of players or get a lot of players. So
yeah, they've still got the war chest, so they can probably look for. They've obviously been trying to lure some players. There's still talk about David Uniacke and Andrew Brayshaw. If they're going to try and lure them in this season, but if it doesn't work, they'll go hard next season. Because obviously, Zach Merritt, they did go for sort of. I think they're just trying to flex their muscles and show the other teams that they're ready to go.
Yeah. How
did you feel about the BnF talk from the is it the president the president of St Kilda, with his talk about the AFL being unfair to them on drafts and that sort of stuff? Because I think overall, I think he had a decent point. Like, Brisbane are going to be getting the best player in the draft. Yeah. I do get that. But also, you've got to take some responsibility for mistakes that you've made.
Yeah, well, there's always the Bontempelli, Jack Billings comparison in the draft.
McCartan and Petrarca. I mean, that one's a little bit different, but the Billings-Bontempelli one's probably the big one.
Yeah. It's that whoever made that decision is the...
I mean, on the end of the day...
you screw up in it. Well...
Yeah, I mean, on hindsight, yeah. But, I mean... You probably can't know at that time. I think that one's obviously a big, bad one. McCartan one, obviously you saw the potential in having a key forward, and just unfortunately with injury, his career just suffered. And Petrarca, well, I mean, who knows if he would have wanted to stay at St Kilda at this point if his brand wasn't on point.
Well, yeah. Well, what do you think now? Well, I wish I was picked by St Kilda in the draft instead of Melbourne.
Yeah, I don't know if Brand Petrarca would have been sitting that good with St Kilda, but
there would have been
wouldn't have been big crowds. Oh, they're probably. I mean, at Marvel, it doesn't look as bad as playing in front of 15,000 at the MCG. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I actually don't mind the sentiment, but also you got to take responsibility for the faults that you've made. And the way you just said it, I know a lot of people would come out and say, like, they bring up the point of the Bontempelli and the McCartan drafts and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I actually didn't mind it. I feel like that there is a lot of favour on the side of father, sons and the academy. I don't think they should get rid of it, but there needs to be more of a cost for a team for taking a player. Like, especially Brisbane, for example, because they're probably going to be getting pick 1 in the draft now, even though they won the premiership. Yeah. There should be a lot more paid for. Yeah. If you're going to be getting a number 1 pick, you should be losing a lot more points than just giving up, draft picks at the end of the draft that no one gives a fuck about. Yeah. Like, if Brisbane lose, they get pick 1, and they lose the rest of their picks through points, that's not going to matter to them.
No, because they got the best player in the comp.
They got the best player in the draft, so they don't really care. And I don't even think they are going to be losing all their draft picks anyway.
And that's kind of bullshit anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, they wouldn't care.
no.
So I don't think anyone. Everyone else is going to be the one who suffered. And I don't think a lot of people didn't really take away from that is the fact that he's not just talking about St Kilda. He's talking about the AFL itself, because even if Brisbane wasn't getting the number one, even if St Kilda aren't getting the number one pick. So he's trying to take the side of as well that it's not fair for teams that are finishing down the bottom, like Richmond. Because Richmond obviously would have the opportunity to get Levi Ashcroft if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But it's obviously they can't. So, yeah, I think that's another point as well. But, yeah, I do think it came off a bit sooky.
Yeah.
I get it. But, yeah, I don't actually mind it. And I do hope that St Kilda... I mean, obviously I would want Sydney to win a premiership. But, everyone, I think a lot of people would still want to see St Kilda break their drought.
Yeah.
I think, anyway. Quickly on the BnF front, every single team now has had their BnF announced. On the Adelaide Crows front, Ben Keys and Jordan Dawson were their BnFs. Lockie Neal for Brisbane, Paddy Cripps for Carlton, Dacos for Collingwood, Zach Merritt for Essendon, Caleb Sarong for Freo, Holmes for Geelong, Gold Coast is Sam Collins, GWS is Jesse Hogan, John Newcomb is Hawthorn, Viney is Melbourne, Davies Uniacke North Melbourne, Zach Butters, Port Adelaide, Daniel Rioli, Richmond, Cam Wilkie for the Saints, Isaac Heaney for the Swans, Jeremy McGovern for the Eagles, and then Western Bulldogs is, of course, Marcus Bontempelli. It's quite interesting. Other than maybe the draw at the Crows, I think every single one of them is like the best player for every single team.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Adam Treloar for the Dogs didn't get... Because I don't think it was a bit close, but I don't think it was that...
Yeah, I mean, Bontempelli was never going to get beaten, was he? I mean, you feel like Bontempelli probably the best player in the team.
Well, I don't think he didn't get even polling up more votes than Treloar and Brownlow, no.
Yeah, but let's look at is the Brownlow really the high standard at this point?
Yeah,
Who knows? I mean, the umpires don't know. I mean, do you think the umpires should have access to stats? I've always thought maybe not, but now I think probably they just have to.
I think it just makes it a bit easier. It's
I know both of us have been on the side of like they should really know what they're doing. They shouldn't have access to it at some point, but I think now it's like just let them have a go. I mean, everyone else for other awards like the coaches awards and all that. You do know, you probably have a pretty fair idea that the coaches probably have a little bit of the phone.
But obviously the coaches box with all the stats in the fucking world on it, so they know who's played well most of the time. I
mean, Adam Treloar did finish second, so he wasn't too far away from it. And he finished equal second, but yeah, I think all the BnF awards is quite interesting because none of them like jump out to me like, oh my god, that's a weird call.
Yeah,
I do think that St Kilda's Rowan Marshall finished fourth. That was a bit rude. Rowan Marshall had a fucking great season. He's been shafted by everyone. The All-Australian. Fuck you, Rowan. And now St Kilda don't even rate him. Do you want... can Sydney maybe make a quick play for Rowan Marshall after Brady retires? I think that's probably a big call.
Grundy didn't work. Yeah, let's bring him in and make him a dual ruckman.
I'm still surprised that Geelong haven't like pushed hard for Rowan Marshall. Really, like they haven't really pushed for a ruckman.
Well, everyone's saying that they have to just push for any ruckman because they some people think that they can never win the premiership again with Reece Stanley in the team.
Yeah, I think Toby Conway will be coming through this year, so I think that's where they're going to be banking on.
Like Sam DeConing can be the backup.
Yeah, well, that's interesting about the trade. We'll get to that a little bit later. But another news story I want to take a look at that no one's really talked about. I felt it was really weird that Fox Footy kind of released this the way they... I don't know if it's the way it's framed or just the way that... It just seems a bit framed a bit strangely. And interesting, it was only... I didn't see this anywhere else, not on the AFL website. The only thing I saw it was on Fox Footy. It was a post on Facebook that I saw it, and it's got like 38 likes. There's no comments on it. So I don't think many people have seen this, but it does say Cats young gun Tanner Bruhn interviewed by police over knowledge of alleged sexual assault. So Tanner Bruhn has reportedly been interviewed by police over knowledge of alleged sexual assault. Bruhn and another man were spoken to by detectives from Victoria's Sexual Offences and Child Abuse Investigation Team last Thursday. It is in relation to an incident that took place in Belmont in the Geelong suburbs on February the 5th last year. The pair were free to leave after the interview, and the police have interviewed the two men part of the investigation into alleged sexual assault in 2023. The men were released pending further investigation on the matter. The AFL is aware of the matter as it is the Victoria Police investigation. We are not in the position to make any further comment at this time. And yeah, it just seemed very weirdly framed. Like when you bring up points of like, and I'm not saying that he's done anything. It doesn't look like he really has. But again, when they frame it like he's still under investigation, the police have interviewed a part of like a alleged sexual assault. They bring up the point of it just seemed like weirdly framed in like an article. I don't know who's written it. Of course, I know. Yet they haven't put their own name to it because that's a shocker. Herald Sun, or it wasn't the Herald Sun, but when they bring up the point of like Victoria Police's sexual offences and child abuse investigation team, your mind just goes, oh fuck.
Yeah.
That's just a bit strange to me. Like, I'm not throwing any allegations out there. I just think the way this article was framed was a bit fucking, how you doing? I don't really like
it's
it.
like, oh, well, let's just try and put it out there, but not hardly half their information. It's it's half-assed, really.
Yeah, well, fucking half the article is talking about like just little snippets of nothing. There's like no any sort of like information about it. And then the end of the last third of this article is just saying Bruhn is from the Geelong area and requested a trade in the hometown. Like, who gives a fuck? It's got nothing to do with the story.
Yeah.
That's just filling words to fucking... That's like filling an essay at high school to fucking get extra words in. Like, that's not relevant to the story. Like, it tells us how many games he played for Geelong and the Giants. I don't give a fuck. Like, how about you tell us more about this story? Why even post it? It came out this and I was like, what the fuck? Look, maybe there is some truth to it, but I feel like there's not a lot, or there shouldn't. You got to have a lot more evidence before you post a headline that says Tanner Bruhn interviewed by police over knowledge of alleged sexual assault. Like a bit more information I feel like is needed before you just post that out there. And like I said, not many people have talked about it. Maybe that's probably a good thing, but
yeah,
very weird that they've just put this out there just out of the blue. Anyway, just very weird. And I guess maybe it's very weird as well because it's Geelong. Nobody like Geelong stories like that happen very often.
No, yeah.
But anyway, let's move on to a bit of trade and sort of stuff. Before we get into some trade rumors and stuff, we have to talk about probably the big story to come out of the first day or two is the free agency compo. So looking at a couple of free agency moves that have already happened, we saw 6 over the first day. We obviously saw Isaac Cumming. He's headed to the Crows. Of course, this is going to bring it up straight away, is it? Because that'd be fucking helpful. Isaac Cumming has gone to the Crows. Nick Haynes has gone to the Giants. I think that's a really good one for them. Tom Campbell, 4th club. He's played like 30-odd games in the space of like 13 seasons. He's obviously the backup for Melbourne. The way he's basically for 13 years had a job of doing nothing. Not nothing. I mean, he plays VFL every week. But also, it's like imagine having a job as an AFL listed player, getting a contract every single year. He's not a rookie either.
Yeah.
He's getting signed on the main list. And he's getting he'd be getting 100, 120k plus a year just to sit on the VFL every day. I mean, I wouldn't have an issue with that too much, and he doesn't either.
Yeah, I don't think he does either.
Harry Perryman went to Collingwood. Josh Battle got to Hawthorn. And Elliot Himmelberg, I think it's a really good signing for the Gold Coast.
I think it's a very underrated one, I think.
Bit surprised he went to the Gold Coast, but I think that they could definitely develop him.
Yeah, I think he could be a very good player. I think he's just needed a good run at it. I don't think the Crows really valued him. So I think he could have a good season next year if he just gets the stability in his game.
Yeah, just get some stability, good run at it. But obviously on the free agency front, there's been a lot of news and a lot of backlash on the compo that teams have been getting. So Isaac Cumming going to the Crows, not a massive player, Isaac Cumming. I don't think many people live in who he was.
He was injured a bit this season as well.
Yeah. He's got picked 21 to the Giants. That seems like a lot.
Yes.
That's a first-round pick. It is a late first-round pick for the Giants, but it just seems like a lot. The Crows did offer him quite a bit, so I'm not surprised by that. So the way the free agency actually works, I've actually got this here. Each season, the current year, contractable players, blah, blah, blah. Points allocated based on average guaranteed contract value. So that's basically what they're getting. Their age, with 25 years old being the maximum point. So I think Isaac Cumming's around that age. That's probably why he's probably got decent money. And the length of the contract, with a 5+ year deal, getting the maximum amount of points. So again, that's another one.
Most of them do now, because obviously when they first enter free agency, the team that picks them up wants to have them long term. So most of them will be 5+ years.
Yeah. So players are then assigned in types of bands. So deals with which fall within the top 5 overall percent equals a first round pick. Next 10% is the end of the first round. So that's where you're looking for Isaac Cumming. It continues from there. The bottom 30% of deals are not worth any draft compensation. So that's where you're looking at players like Nick Haynes and that. So his contract must not be that great, which is like fair enough. He's pretty old now and he hasn't played a lot this last couple of seasons.
I think Himmelberg didn't cost it.
He didn't get anything.
Yeah, he didn't get anything for it.
Which I think is massive for the Gold Coast. And, you know, the Crows gave him up for nothing. I'm pretty surprised by that. But anyway, teams can lose their compensation picks if they sign free agents who effectively counteract the players they've lost. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of get it, but also...
I think there's still, there's a lot of players on that first day that... all 3 of them for those compos don't deserve that. It's not worth that.
Well, Isaac Cumming, I think at most is worth maybe a second round pick. Like if you're looking at a trade, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like if you're thinking of a trade, Harry Perryman, probably the happiest guy in football at the moment, I would say. I can understand why he went to Collingwood. There's reports that his contract at Collingwood is $900K. Harry Perryman, good on fucking him. Congratulations to Harry Perryman. Good on you. You're not worth 900K. I'm sorry.
Not in the world is he worth 900K.
I mean, look, maybe I'll regret that call. Maybe he'll become especially nowadays, 900K sounds like a lot in the AFL space, but the number of players now going into $1 million is getting up there. But he's not worth nearly $1 million. No. He's not. Yeah. No. So I mean, imagine if I'm a Collingwood fan sitting there, how much is Nick Day cost on at the moment? I mean, he wouldn't be on a lot. He would be on a lot, but I mean, is he still on his draft contract? He'd probably be a bit better than that now.
I think
but
he's out of that now. Yeah, because he's in his third year now. Third year.
He just would have finished his third year, so I think he's coming out of that contract, but. He'd only just be getting out of that contract. And I mean, arguably, Nick Dacos, you could say, is what should be the highest paid player at Collingwood. But now Harry Perryman's one of the higher paid players there. Just insane. But anyway, his compo pick was pick 16. So, I mean, the Giants, no wonder they let him go. It's pick 16 for a guy who, if you're going for a trade for Harry Perryman, again, maybe a second round pick at the most. Yeah. Not a middle, or probably it's towards the end of the first round, but even so. And then obviously the big one for the Saints, Josh Battle, pick 8. Now, I think he is one of the better defenders in the comp. I think he doesn't get talked about enough. Even at St Kilda, he wasn't their best defender. No, it was Cal Wilkie. So, and he did. Funnily enough, obviously, he wasn't allowed to go to the BnF. He finished 3rd in the BnF, which was funny. They try to avoid saying his name. You didn't really have an issue with that. I didn't really either. But I mean, I don't really care. But I mean, I do think that a lot of people blew it out of proportion. It's like the guy's not part of your team anymore.
You pretty much, they had the BnF I think on Wednesday last week, Tuesday or Wednesday, and by Friday he was at Hawthorn.
Yeah, exactly. I also think as well that people were getting a bit upset that he thought that people were thinking that he was actually talking to people saying he was going to stay, and then made a last second decision to just go. Yeah. Now, look, maybe Hawthorn upped their offer, but, I mean, the guys... It seems at this stage that maybe he's $1 million player. I mean, Harry Perryman's gone for pick 16. Yeah. And he's in the top 5%, Josh Battle. He's $1 million defender. We think of $1 million defenders. I think Jacob Wiedering's up there. Jeremy McGovern's one of the higher paid players in the game. So you got to think about it. Is Josh... I mean, look, maybe he will be. And I think Hawthorn, the way they've signed... I think it's great signing for Hawthorn. Don't get me wrong. Is he worth that much, though? No. But, at the end of the day, St Kilda... I wouldn't be too angry about him leaving. Pick 8. You got pick 7 and pick 8 now. Go for it.
I think Calgary Toomey pretty much summed it up pretty well. They lost the battle, but they won the war.
Yeah, no, still.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I get it, but yeah, I think they lost a good player. Yeah. But to get pick 8, now they have 7.
This supposed to be the dream draft too.
Yeah, they're saying it's a dream draft, and they've got pick 7, 8, and something else in the later, early second round. That's a good draft hand. Yeah. And they could. if they want to, they could go to the draft, or they could use it to their advantage, and trade it off and get us some good players with it.
But of course, with that being said, let's move on to a couple of trade rumours, because I think that's what we're all here for, of course. This is the big part of, like, fucking how many darts they can throw at the fucking wall.
This is when the journos come out to play.
Yeah, how many fucking bullshit ones. First one we'll start off with is the Clayton Oliver saga, because what the fuck's going on? Melbourne have officially ruled him out of moving. I don't know anymore. Is he going? Is he staying?
They're saying that Geelong is still going to try and pursue it, but I think Melbourne aren't going to look at it.
I don't think they're going to budge.
No.
I think at this point they've got so much to lose. There's not really. I mean, Geelong would have to pay for the contract at this point, and would also have to pay overs. It's such a risk for Geelong. I think that they're already going to get Bailey Smith. I think at that point, just let it ride.
Yeah, I think they've got Bailey Smith. They're looking at Jack Martin. I think they just need to put their cues.
He'll get delisted free agent, so they won't have to worry about that.
I think they just need to look at those two. I don't think there's too much. They need to see what happens with Clayton Oliver next year, because now he's actually going to have the preseason.
And again, if he has a good preseason, has a good run at it, maybe Melbourne can, maybe he'll have a good year, and then maybe Geelong can come out next year.
Yeah.
Who knows? I think that one's probably. I feel like that's going to taper off now. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I think the Cats maybe pursue it a little bit, but I don't think they're going to push hard for it. They've got other plans really. And I think Bailey Smith, that's as good a deal as you can get at this point. I'm looking at the Suns pick. Interesting one. So the Gold Coast have pick 13, which could hold the key to the Dan Houston deal, obviously. Even though he hasn't requested the trade to Carlton, that's where he kind of wants to go. I think he doesn't want to go to North Melbourne unless, he can't get to Carlton and he doesn't want to stay at Port Adelaide. And, the money's there. That's the only real reason why I feel like that. But pick 13 is the deal. Collingwood and Carlton are among the pack fiercely chasing that pick. The Magpies are trying to attain pick 13 as a part of the John Noble deal. I feel like it's a bit high for John Noble, to be honest with you. Maybe picks will be switching and swapping each way. There is interest in Dan Houston that remains strong in the meeting last month, but it also does mean that Joe Richards could be a part of a deal if he goes to Collingwood. Obviously, Joe Richards' big talking point that maybe Port Adelaide would go for him pretty hard. As for you, obviously you're the Port Adelaide fan here. Now, obviously, Harry Perryman isn't going to Port Adelaide. He's gone to Collingwood on a big money deal. How much would you be holding Houston no matter what, or would there be a deal that you could see get done?
I think Port should hold.
Yeah.
I think there's not another guaranteed good rebounding defender out there at the moment. I think that you've got the likes of Burgoyne and Kane Farrell there. They're not there in Houston.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting what Port Adelaide have offered Jack Lukosius if it is a forward role, if it's a defensive role.
My understanding is they want to play him forward.
Yeah, that's what my. So if they're going to do that, they're going to hold firm. They should be holding firm on Houston, because obviously he has 2 more years.
Yeah.
3 years. He has the contract still there, so he can come back. And for one thing, Port Adelaide let him go to the BnF on this week. So,
Port Adelaide still have a little bit of nice heart for him.
Yeah, so it's not I think he wants to go home to Victoria, but I think if Port Adelaide will hold, well, they should be holding on him.
Yeah, just let him have a longer off season in Victoria and then get him back better and better. Other one as well, Compo complications for deals. Geelong's chaser Bailey Smith and Fremantle's pursuit of Shea Bolton are among a host of deals that could be complicated by a suite of compensation picks. With obviously the ones of Josh Battle and Perryman, pretty high picks. The Cats pick 15 is loomed to be pivotal in the talks with the Western Bulldogs. But it's been pretty hard to talk about the Western Bulldogs about Bailey Smith. There's been a little bit of talk that there hasn't been any talk between both the clubs. Obviously, this has been brewing for 18 months. I feel like this has been a trade rumour. Even we talked about last year that Bailey Smith was going to be leaving the Bulldogs. I've always felt that at the end of the day, the Bulldogs have had themselves to blame. They should have been playing him in the correct position. But yeah, obviously the big talking points about that. The Gold Coast want probably more number of picks because they've got a couple of academy draftees. They want to pick up Leo Lombard, and is probably the big one that they want to pick up. That's probably likely going to be going in round 1. Looking at a couple of Giants players, the Giants are pretty determined to hold on to wanted pair Xavier O'Halloran and Wade Dirksen to their contracts. Obviously, already losing Cumming, Perryman, and Haynes in the first day of the trade period, and also the requested move of James Peatling. They don't want to lose 2 other players.
Yeah.
Xavier O'Halloran's an interesting one. I think he's always been on the fringe of the Giants. I don't know much about Wade Dirksen, but obviously he has requested a trade to the Melbourne Football Club. So O'Halloran has had interest from the Western Bulldogs. So who knows if we'll get a bloody game there. But I think that O'Halloran, he's always felt like a player that he definitely fills a role.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the Giants probably want to hold him, because they obviously have the big money players, but also they need those role players. The question is, is he in their best 23 round 1 next year? Who knows? I don't really think so. But yeah, I feel like Dirksen eventually will go. I feel like Melbourne will just pay a little bit overs for him at this stage. That's probably what I'm thinking. Collingwood remains a potential landing spot for out-of-contract key defender Adam Tomlinson, 31 years of age. That was word from Mark Keane earlier in the year. That one obviously didn't work out. Adam Tomlinson, obviously a bit older, but I feel like at a club like Collingwood, he could definitely thrive there. They do need more key positions, but I don't know. Does it really feel like a key defender's their option? I don't think it's a bad option, but
I think if they bring him in, they can use that Darcy Moore role to what they want, because they want him to be the more of the interceptor, and they couldn't do it this year with all the injuries they had defensively.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a good option for them to bring in Tomlinson just for that role.
Yeah, because I think that Jeremy Howe could obviously play a little bit more. That means that Billy Frampton could then go to someone as a lockdown with Tomlinson. So yeah, maybe the more you think about it, it's a good idea. Charlie Dean is one that hasn't been re-signed yet. That's probably one that they're waiting for to see how it works out.
Yeah.
Also, looks like the St Kilda are looking at Tomlinson as well, and maybe even the Gold Coast have also made interest in him as well. So we'll have to wait and see on that front. Looks like at the moment, a couple of NGA pickups, and the Swans are looking at another academy prospect. One is called Joel Cochran. What did he get? First honours. Oh, he claimed first honours at the weekend's draft combine with winning the Friday's 2K time trial. Just another academy prospect for the Sydney Swans. Love to see it. That's basically all the trade news on that day. Go to another one here. This is the one from this afternoon. So right now, I'm thinking that there won't be done mostly. This is obviously Monday today. I think there may be a couple done, but not really a massive one.
You pretty much get, on the first day of the trade period, you get the ones that are pretty bloody easy to do. It's pretty much just the player for a pick or a player for a player. Then later in the period, you have those days that nothing happens for 2 or 3 days. Yeah. And then at the end, you'll get everyone fucking rushing and they fucking fuck it up and...
Yeah, someone will pay overs and someone will pay unders for it.
Yeah.
So a couple of ones here for North Melbourne. Jack Darling obviously will join North Melbourne. It looks like pick 67's been agreed upon. That's basically just go at this point. Luke Parker's an interesting one though. Talks have yet to progress on a deal with him. I'm still disappointed by Sydney, the treatment of him whatsoever. I wouldn't be giving him another year, but maybe just giving him a little bit extra on his contract. Do something. He was really good for Sydney the later parts of the year. It did show that they still need that experienced head in there, and was one of the better players in the final series. But I feel like he wants to go more just to maybe with maybe the future of his life. Probably maybe wants to live in Victoria. Coaching probably something that he wants to pursue as well. So I think it's one similar to Sam Mitchell went to the West Coast towards his end of his career. That's kind of how it will work out. And also, the Kangaroos are still waiting on Caleb Daniel to see if he wants to request a trade to North Melbourne. Obviously, he's still got 2 years remaining at the Bulldogs, but North Melbourne are coming in with the big bucks here.
I think he just has to go. He's just not getting a game at the Dogs, and Bevo doesn't want to play him.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the better kicks in the comp, but we'll have to wait and see if they actually really want to go for him or if they want to just wait around and see what happens. Obviously, big couple of trades. Tom Barrass, Liam Baker, Daniel Rioli, Shea Bolton, and Jack Lukosius are some big ones looking at it right now. Tom Barrass is an interesting one. I feel like they're going to have to play a bit overs here, Hawthorn, to get him in. I know West Coast have said that they will get a deal done, but they also got to do the best what's best for them.
Yeah.
So I think they are going to push hard. Liam Baker wants to go to West Coast. Daniel Rioli to the Gold Coast. Shea Bolton still hasn't elected a club yet. You think there's still more to play out there? Freo are the front runners, but obviously with the Andrew McWalter signing at the West Coast Eagles, do you think there's a chance?
I think there is. I think he will pursue it. I think he'll go to the West Coast, to be honest. I really do.
I don't know. I feel like the Fremantle are the front runners here. I still think that Fremantle, they're obviously... West Coast are obviously... That's the club where Andrew McWalter is. He's still got time in his career to potentially get them back up there, and maybe more money reasons could maybe get to West Coast, but Fremantle are so close to a premiership. Well, a potential
a good
push.
finals push, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that one's going to happen. Jack Lukosius, what do you think he's worth?
Around the compos that were given today, about last week with picks 16 and 19, I think he's around that late first rounder. I don't think he's an early first rounder.
I wouldn't say that. I was going to be honest with you. I was going to say maybe an early second round pick, to be honest. But
yeah, well, that's what
the Gold Coast will ask for more.
A late first, early second. The way he's played, the way that he's not like I said, he was dropped at the start of during the year.
Yeah,
for some games, so you can't say that he's worth an early first rounder.
Yeah. And then also on Cozzy Pickett, there's still a little bit of rumours about the potential of him wanting to explore a deal back to WA. I feel like that's only Fremantle. I don't think West Coast have really joined the party for that one. I think they want to go for a premiership, I feel like.
And I think that West Coast already have so many hands in other baskets around these Richmond players and other players that they can't really go for him.
Yeah. So I think that... I don't think that will happen. I feel like Cozzy Pickett will stay at the Demons. But there is still a couple of whispers around Cozzy Pickett and if he wants to go back to WA. If he does go, what do you think kind of like a pick would be? I feel like mid to late first round.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you're looking like small forwards in the past who have been traded, like Charlie Cameron, even Tom Papley, when there was talk about him, there was like that middle first round pick to late first round.
Yeah.
I still think that he's kind of behind those two as like smaller forwards. So I'd say late first round pick.
Yeah.
But Fremantle have got a couple of picks, and obviously a lot of talk is still surrounding Chad Warner at the Sydney Swans. I don't think this will happen until next year, when the Freo have they'll obviously have picks for next year, but they also, the AFL are opening up that you can go another year in advance to drop future picks. So I think Fremantle are going to wait for that and just throw everything at Sydney.
Yeah.
If Chad Warner wants to eventually go. He is a West Coast fan as a kid, but I don't think that's really a matter, to be honest with you, especially when money's involved. Do you think, obviously this is very early on, I don't think this is going to happen this trade period no matter what happens. On the side of this is 50-50 on the Swan side. What do you think? Do you think he's gone, or do you think that this will...
I think that Sydney have put some money into other players. I think that Chad Warner will eventually go.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it's more about 70-30 at the moment. WA.
Yeah.
I think he will go.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm probably thinking that... Yeah, the more it sits around, the more I'm thinking, especially if Sydney do push hard and get a premiership next year, knock on wood, that would be a way to get... I mean, they've been talking as well, if Sydney did win this flag this year, that he would have gone, that he would have requested a move straight away. That's really the only reason why he's staying, which, I mean, you could say it's a bit selfish, but I think every AFL player wants to get that flag.
Well, you could say that about Joe Danaher last year. Last 2 years is that he was going to retire at the end of last year.
Which, by the way, I don't think so. I don't think it's selfish.
No,
I think it's an achievement that every AFL player wants to get to. But I know some people would think, oh, that's selfish. It's like, no.
But also you got to think, well, he wants to do it with that team.
Yeah,
like he had it last year with Joe Danaher with Brisbane. He didn't get it, but he wanted one more shot with the team that he has to do it.
I mean, you can say the same thing about Chad Warner. He wants to do it with the Swans. Because, I mean, if you think about it, if he went to Fremantle this year, or he wanted to anyway, they could potentially go for the flag. They were just missed the 8, but, they've got such a good team, the Dockers, but he wants to do it with the Swans. So, I mean, guys, make sure to let us know down below what you think about a couple of the trade rumours going around at the moment. Obviously, there's so many and really hard to track how each one's going. One day, Clayton Oliver wants to go. It looks like he's going to go the next day. Melbourne are locking him to his contract. So many talking points, so let us know down below what you feel about with the AFL trade rumours and stuff. But for the first time in, it'd be at least 6 months, I'd say, let's get into a bit of world sport, because we haven't done it in a while. Usually when we do the world sports segments, guys, we usually talk about the NFL and the Premier League or soccer in general. We'll start with the Premier League because you've forced me at this point. I'm going to be honest. Liverpool are on top of the Premier League table. I definitely didn't want to talk about this. Anyway. Liverpool are on top by 1 point over City and Arsenal. Chelsea with their draw this morning, City in 4th spot in a Champions League spot. They're actually done pretty well, Chelsea, considering a lot of people would have thought they would have been fallen off.
Yeah, well, it had to turn around one time. They buy so many players, it had to turn around at some point.
It's so funny that I look at the team from last year to this year. Even though they've signed a lot of players, a lot of them aren't actually in the team.
Yeah.
It's just the same team. I do think that is quite funny. But Chelsea are in 4th spot. Aston Villa, what a team they've been. Such a good team to watch. They're in 5th at the moment.
That will be interesting because obviously there's with the European football starting now, the competitions and all that. That'll be interesting where Aston Villa.
Yeah, but they beat Bayern Munich 1-0 in the Champions League. That was a really good win for them. And then all the way down the ladder, who really cares? Tottenham are in 9th. A little bit disappointing. They did lose after leading 2-0.
That should never happen to lose that so quickly. They lost it in a 25-minute period.
Yeah, Ange even said after the game that was the worst loss he's been a part of as being a coach. But obviously the great talking point of the Premier League at the moment is Manchester United down in 14th spot. It just brings a smile to your face, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why that they're... I love it as a Liverpool supporter to keep Ten Hag in that position. But if you're a United supporter, you'd be scratching your head to the reasoning.
I feel like a lot of it is they don't want to just get rid of a manager because that's what so many clubs do nowadays. They just get rid of them at the.
I think
they're just waiting for it to turn around. But at this point, they're 14th. They are. I mean, look, they're not going to get relegated. Let's be honest. But they're 5 points away from relegation.
But the thing is, I think they don't want to be it's another manager that they've sacked after Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
They don't want to have another one. I think it would be number 7 or 8 since he left in not even 10 years. Maybe just over 10 years, not even, since he left.
Yeah, exactly.
So they don't want to be another failed manager, but I don't see how it's going to turn around.
There's been talk about Thomas Tuchel, former Bayern coach and Chelsea coach as well, that potentially could be going there.
There was rumours that the Inter Milan manager, I can't remember what his name is, but they asked him, do you want to take over the United job and you can just leave the Inter job? And he's like, no, I don't want to do that.
Fuck no, why would I want to do that? Looking at the relegation battle at the moment, obviously very early on, you got just under Manchester United, you got Leicester City in 6 points, Everton on 5, Ipswich Town with 4 draws, they're sitting in 17th. And then a bit of a surprise early, Crystal Palace, who was expected to be that middle table team this year in the relegation zone, with Southampton and Wolverhampton right down the bottom, 1 point from 7 games so far. Really terrible start for them. Looking at it right now, a really good run of form for Liverpool. They still have lost a game, unlike Arsenal and City. But interesting look at it so far. Chelsea sitting in 2nd on the form ladder. But looking to next week, we have a good run here. Chelsea versus Liverpool, next weekend. Be excited for that one. What time does it start? 2 a.m. 2 a.m. on a Monday morning. So I won't be watching that. Will you be watching that?
Nah,
depending on if you have maybe. Yeah, but it looks like that's going to be an interesting game. A couple of interesting games coming up. City against Wolves. That's going to be a fucking bloodbath. Holy shit. Game over there. I don't really want to be watching that one, to be honest with you. But let's move on. Let's look at the Champions League just quickly, because it's very interesting the way this has been set up. So it's a lot different if you haven't been following much of soccer or Champions League and that. It's not the group stage that they used to have. It's now just a big, long ladder, and teams are placed in pots. Looking at it early, so there's only been 2 games in the Champions League, Europa League, and the Conference League. Borussia Dortmund sit top on that one with Brest, it's a French club, Benfica, Bayer Leverkusen, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Juventus, all teams that are undefeated so far. Manchester City are 1 win, 1 draw. Real Madrid, the money bags, Mbappe, so many great teams. They lost against Lille.
Yeah, I know.
Losers, suck shit. They're obviously, they'll be fine. I think you have to finish in the top 8 or 9 to
top 8.
Top 8 to get to
top
the round
8
16.
to guaranteed shot. Then you're 9 to 24. Playoffs.
They play off, and then they go through how all that happens. Looking at the Europa League, obviously at the moment top team is Lazio with Lyon, Tottenham Hotspur, don't know who that team is. Anderlecht are the undefeated team so far. Probably the biggest disappointment at the moment is Manchester United. They are in 2 draws, yet to win a game. Roma has only got 1 draw from their 2 games so far, so they're pretty disappointing as well. And looking at the Conference League, I'm going to be honest, I don't want to call this too early, but Chelsea, they should be winning the fucking Conference League. I'm going to be honest. The other teams that are competitive against them, you would say, would be Fiorentina. They're pretty big, decent club in Italy. Heidenheim, who's a team from Germany, who 5 years ago weren't even in a recognised German league. They're looking okay. Copenhagen, of course, and that's about it. Let's be honest, those are the teams that I recognise. Apoel, actually, they're pretty known. There's a couple of teams you've seen in the Champions League before, but you don't know them. So Chelsea, there's only been 1 game so far in the in the Conference League. That's really all done there. Let's move on. Let's talk about the NFL as well. So my team is the Atlanta Falcons. If you're here for the first time, we're actually doing okay. It's a miracle, really. Well, not really, but picked up a couple of good players in the last off season, and obviously the big one is Kirk Cousins. Sitting on top of the NFC South, good on the Atlanta Falcons. They've won 3 and lost 2. Obviously last week against, against Tampa Bay. Had really no right to win that game.
No, they didn't. And watch that whole game, and it was just
how are they still in there for a lot of it?
Yeah, Baker Mayfield just is playing good football, but he needs to shut that out.
Yeah. Looking at the NFC North, what a good conference this one is. Minnesota are undefeated, Detroit are 3-1, Chicago 3-2, and then Green Bay 2-2. So you're looking at that, you're like, that's a pretty good conference. And then you're looking at ones like the where's one that's really bad, AFC North. There's two teams with only 1 win. Let's have a look at the conference quickly for each team. Obviously, there's only 2 undefeated teams at the moment. It's Kansas City and Minnesota on both sides. Houston have had a good start, 4-1. Buffalo and Pittsburgh 3-1, 3-2. So looking at it right now, a bit surprising. Miami 2-3, not the greatest start for them, and Cincinnati are down the bottom.
Miami's down because they just, without Tua and their team, that they just haven't had the connection between the QB and the receivers in Tyreek Hill and Weddle.
Yeah, and then Cincinnati down the bottom of the AFC. It's obviously very early on, but a team that's been fighting for playoffs the last few seasons, and now,
Yeah, well, when they pay Joe Burrow the bank and no receivers with him.
He's throwing it to no one at this point. So on the NFC side, Minnesota up the top, Washington are 2nd, Atlanta up in 4th. Good to see. Hopefully we'll make playoffs.
Good to see. To be honest, Washington, they just never had a good run at it. But with was it Jalen Daniels?
Yeah,
he looks like a good QB.
Yeah, just a couple of Chicago Bears. Obviously had the number 1 pick, finished one of the last teams last year. Good to see that they're getting a couple of wins. Dallas in the middle there with Philly on 2-2. So really interesting runs so far. I think there's still a couple of games going at the moment. There is. Looks like Denver going to beat Las Vegas 34-10. That's pretty much done. But yeah, I mean, a couple of we'll be probably breaking down the NFL as it gets closer to the end of the season. But yeah, really good start to the season for the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm pretty happy. You don't really have a team associated with, are you?
Not really, no.
You just like watching the NFL. Premier League, I'm pretty happy with how Chelsea are going because I was expecting another middle table finish, but they've started well. Let's hope they keep... The one thing they do have is because they've got so many players, at least they can spread them out throughout the leagues that they're playing in. But anyway, that's pretty much all we've got for today's episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. Guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you are watching over on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe, of course. And if you are listening over on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars and, of course, follow so you're notified on the podcast every single week. And a new video essay obviously dropped, the Sydney Swans one. You've probably already seen it. The Melbourne one will be dropping on Monday next week. So just dropping a couple now. I know we kind of tapered off throughout the end of the AFL season, but thought with the finals and that, there's really no point dropping a massive couple of video essays. So dropping them now. Probably drop one once a month towards the end of the AFL season. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.